exponential numbers. Dividing with numbers in exponential form, I feel, is one of the easiest things to do with exponents because you're just combining prior knowledge to do that. So if we looked at this and we had no idea how to divide this, we just want to remember obviously that that bar in the middle does mean to divide. And if we use our knowledge of how we expand 5 to the 7th power in factored form, that's what we would do first. So we would just do 7 copies of 5 being multiplied by each other. And then on the bottom, we would do the same thing, but this time we would do 3 copies of 5 being multiplied by each other. Can you guess what we're going to do next? That's right, we're going to create our giant ones. Everyone knows that any number divided by itself is 1. So you can see that we have 5 divided by 5. Here's a giant one. There's another giant one. And here is our third giant one. And so now you can see that what we have left will be our answer. On the bottom, 1 times 1 times 1 is just going to be 1. So our answer is just going to be a base of 5 to the 1, 2, 3, 4th power. And you can write over 1, but we all know that that's kind of elementary and we should simplify it because any number divided by 1 is itself. So 5 to the 7th over 5 to the 3rd power is the same as 5 to the 4th. And it's that easy. So please pause the video here and try to do the first one by yourself. All right, so for this first one, remember, we're going to first expand these to factored form. On the top, I have 4 copies of 2 being multiplied by each other. And on the bottom, I have 2 copies of 2 being multiplied by each other. How many giant ones can you make? That's right, 2 of them. Which leaves us with our base of 2, and there's 2 copies of 2 left on the top, and 1 times 1 is 1 on the bottom, so we can say our final answer is 2 to the 2nd power. And if we wanted to find a value, we could do that. 2 times 2 is 4. So essentially, these are the same thing. Pause the video here and try the next 3 on your own. Okay, let's see what you got. If you did this one second, we would have 7 copies of y being multiplied by each other on top. And on the bottom, we would have 4 copies of y being multiplied by each other. And then you should have been able to come up with 4 giant ones. Y divided by y is 1. So our final answer would be y to the 3rd over 1, which is the same as y to the 3rd. Now, this next one, it may have confused you a little bit, but it doesn't have to. I'm sure that you did the top, or factored it out correctly and got 4 copies of 3 being multiplied on the top, and then 5 copies of 3 being multiplied on the bottom. So that when you created your giant ones, notice what's different? This time the 3 is on the bottom, and that's okay. We just have to remember that this top is 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, which is still just 1. So we end up with 1 over 3 on the bottom. And no need for an exponent because there's just 1 copy of 3. All right, for the final example, there are 2 variables, but just like with any other operation with exponents, it just means that your answer will have 2 bases. So we first have 3 copies of x on the top and 2 copies of y. And then on the bottom we have 1 copy of x and 2 copies of y. Whenever I expand these into factored form, I always try to line up the variables that match so that it's easier to see the giant ones and to not accidentally cross out things that weren't supposed to be crossed out. So you can see I have a giant one here with two x's, and I also have two giant ones here with our y's. So my final answer is going to end up being x to the second power and then 1 on the bottom, so we would simplify this to x to the second power, or x squared. So in conclusion, we just want to remember that when dividing with exponents, we want to make sure to factor and make giant ones. So in this last example, the first thing we would have on top is 3 copies of 4 being multiplied by each other, and then 5 copies of x. And then on the bottom, we would have 4 copies of 4 and 3 copies of x. So now when we go to make our giant ones, we're going to have 3 of them that we can make with 4s, and we're going to have 3 of them that we can make with our x's. So you have to be careful when you write your final answer, because if you notice on the top, we have 2 x's left. So 2 copies of x would be x squared, or x to the second power. And then on the bottom, we only have 4 left. So it would just be 4, or 4 to the first power, so we don't put that exponent. And that is how you divide with exponents.